The day I found out my parents were suing me, I thought it was a mistake. I stared at the legal notice for a long time. My name. Their names. And one word that didn't make sense. Support. They were demanding financial support from me. My own parents. At first, I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it didn't feel real. After everything that had happened between us, this was the last thing I expected. I read the document again. Carefully this time. They claimed I had abandoned my responsibilities, that I was financially capable, and refusing to help them. Refusing. That word hit hard. Because the truth was very different. I hadn't refused. I had tried. More times than I could count. But every attempt had ended the same way. With rejection. With anger. With blame. I sat down slowly, the paper still in my hand. And for the first time in years, I felt that same old weight return. The one I thought I had left behind. But what my parents didn't realize was that this case wouldn't be decided by emotions. It would be decided in court. And all it would take was one question. I didn't respond to the notice right away. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I didn't know where to start. How do you defend yourself? Against your own parents? I sat at my table for hours, just thinking. Replaying everything in my head. Every conversation. Every moment I had tried to help. And every time they pushed me away. Finally, I called a lawyer. When I explained the situation, there was a short silence on the line. Then he asked a simple question. Have you supported them financially before? Yes, I said immediately. How often? Whenever they asked, I replied. 4 years. Do you have proof? He asked. That question made me pause. Proof. I had never thought I would need proof for helping my own parents. I think so, I said slowly. Bank transfers, messages, maybe more. Good, he said. Start gathering everything. That night, I opened old files, messages, emails. And what I found was more than I expected. Transfers. Receipts. Requests. Even messages where they demanded money, and then later claimed I never helped. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time since reading that notice, I didn't feel confused. I felt ready. Because if this was going to court, then the truth was going with me. The more I searched, the clearer everything became. Old bank statements. Screenshots of messages. Even voice notes I had saved without thinking. At the time, they meant nothing. Now, they meant everything. I saw patterns I had ignored before. Every few months, the same cycle repeated. A call. A request. Urgency. Just this once. I really need your help. You're the only one we can count on. And every time, I sent the money. No questions asked. No hesitation. Because they were my parents. But what came after that was what I had tried to forget. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Sometimes, not even a reply. And if I ever hesitated, even slightly, the tone would change. You've changed. You don't care about us anymore. You owe us this. Oh. That word showed up again and again. As if my support wasn't kindness, but a duty I could never fulfill. I sat there, staring at the screen. All those years. I thought I was helping. But now it felt different. It felt like I was being used. And what hurt the most wasn't the money. It was the realization that nothing I did was ever enough. But in court, this time, it wouldn't be about what they felt. It would be about what I could prove. The court date came faster than I expected. I remember standing outside the courtroom, holding that same file in my hands. Only now, it was full. Full of proof. Full of years I had spent trying to be a good son. When I walked inside, they were already there. My parents. Sitting together. Avoiding my eyes. That hurt more than anything else. Not the case. Not the accusations. But the distance. The silence. We used to be a family. Now we were opponents. The hearing began shortly after. Their lawyer spoke first. Confident. Clear. Well prepared. My clients, he said, are elderly and financially dependent. Their child has refused to support them despite having the means. Refused. Again, that word. I clenched my jaw but stayed quiet. Because I knew my turn would come. Then the judge looked at me. Do you wish to respond? I stood up slowly. My hands steady, my voice calm. Yes, Your Honor. I placed the file on the table. I have something to show. The room shifted slightly. Attention turned. Because in that moment, this wasn't just a case anymore. It was the truth, about to be revealed. I opened the file, and slid the first document forward. A bank transfer, I said. From 2 years ago. Then another. And another. The judge looked down, scanning each page carefully. The room was quiet. Too quiet. These are consistent, the judge said. Monthly? Yes, I replied. Sometimes more. I handed over printed messages next. Screenshots. Dates clearly visible. Requests from them. Amounts written in their own words. I need this urgently. Please send it today. Don't say no this time. The judge read silently. Then looked up. At any point, he asked, did you refuse? I shook my head. No, Your Honor. There was a pause. Then he turned to my parents. Did you receive these funds? They shifted uncomfortably. Their lawyer leaned in, whispering something. Finally, my father spoke. Yes, he said quietly. That one word changed everything. Because now, it wasn't about claims anymore. It was about facts. But the judge wasn't done yet. He leaned back slightly, folded his hands, and asked a question that no one in that room expected. A question so simple, yet so powerful. It would decide the entire case. The judge looked directly at my parents. Not at their lawyer. Not at the documents. At them. And then he asked one simple question. If your child has been supporting you for years, why are you claiming neglect now? The room froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Because there was no easy answer. My parents looked at each other. Then at their lawyer. But even he stayed silent this time. The judge continued. These records show consistent financial support, he said. So I need to understand, what exactly is being denied here? My mother finally spoke. Her voice wasn't strong anymore. It's not just about money, she said. It's about responsibility. The judge nodded slowly. Responsibility, he repeated. In what sense? Another pause. Longer this time. He doesn't visit, my father added. He keeps his distance. I felt that familiar weight again. But I stayed calm. Because now, everything was coming out. The judge turned back to me. Is that true? He asked. I took a breath. Yes, I said. The room shifted again. Because this case was no longer just about money. It was about something deeper. Something harder to explain. And now, it was my turn to tell the whole story. I stood there for a moment, collecting my thoughts. Then I looked at the judge. Yes, I said again. I keep my distance. There was a quiet murmur in the room. But I didn't stop. Not because I don't care, I continued. But because every time I tried to be present, it ended badly. The judge listened carefully. Explain, he said. So I did. I spoke about the visits. The arguments. The constant criticism. How nothing I did was ever enough. If I came empty-handed, it was a problem, I said. If I brought something, it wasn't enough. I paused briefly. And if I couldn't come at all? I looked down for a second, then back up. It turned into blame. The room was completely silent now. Even their lawyer wasn't interrupting. I didn't walk away overnight, I said. I tried, again and again. I swallowed, then added quietly. But at some point, I had to protect myself. The judge nodded slightly. Not in agreement, but in understanding. Then he asked one more question. Did you ever communicate this to them? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Because that was the part that mattered most. Yes, I said firmly. I told them many times. The judge leaned slightly forward. How? He asked. Messages, calls, even in person, I replied. I opened the file again and pulled out another set of papers. These are conversations, I said, where I explained everything. The judge reviewed them carefully. My words were there. Clear. Respectful. I want to help, but I need boundaries. I can support you financially, but I can't continue like this emotionally. I'm trying, but this is hurting me. The courtroom stayed silent as those words settled in. Then the judge looked at my parents. Were you aware of this? He asked. They didn't answer immediately, because the truth was written right in front of them. Finally, my mother spoke quietly. We thought he was making excuses. Excuses. I exhaled slowly, because for years, that's exactly how they saw it. Not as honesty, not as pain, just excuses. But now, those excuses were evidence, and the case was starting to shift. The judge placed the papers down carefully. Then he looked at both sides. What I see here, he said, is not a lack of support. He paused. It's a breakdown of relationship. Those words changed everything. Because suddenly, this wasn't about money anymore. It was about expectations, misunderstandings, and emotional boundaries. You have been receiving financial help, the judge said to my parents. They stayed quiet. And you, he said, turning to me, have continued that support despite personal conflict. I nodded. Then came the moment that mattered most. This court cannot force emotional closeness, the judge said. The room went completely still. But it can evaluate financial responsibility. He looked back at the documents one last time. And based on what I've reviewed, another pause. There is no evidence of neglect. That was it. One statement. Clear. Final. And suddenly, the entire case started to fall apart. My parents' lawyer tried to respond. He stood up quickly. Your Honor, emotional neglect is also. But the judge raised his hand. Emotional expectations are not enforceable in this court, he said calmly. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Then he continued. The defendant has provided consistent financial support. He glanced at me briefly, and has also attempted communication. My parents looked down. For the first time. They had nothing to say. No accusations. No arguments. Because everything they had claimed had been answered. Not with emotion. Not with anger. But with proof. The judge adjusted his papers. I will be dismissing this claim, he said. And just like that, it was over. But even as the case ended, something else remained. Something deeper. Because winning in court doesn't always feel like winning. We walked out of the courtroom in silence. No one spoke. Not me. Not them. The distance between us felt heavier than ever. I had won the case. But I hadn't fixed the relationship. And maybe that was never the point. As I reached the exit, I heard a voice behind me. Wait. I turned. It was my mother. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then quietly, we didn't think it would go this way. I nodded slightly. Neither did I replied. There was a pause. Uncomfortable. Honest. We just wanted you close, she said. I looked at her. And for the first time, I saw something different. Not anger. Not blame. Just regret. But some distances aren't closed in a single moment. That day didn't fix everything. But it changed something. The truth was no longer hidden. No longer ignored. It was clear. I had supported them. I had tried. And I had reached my limit. Sometimes, love doesn't disappear. It just needs space to survive. The judge's question didn't just end the case. It revealed the reality. That support isn't control. And responsibility isn't one-sided. As I walked away, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel victory, just clarity. And sometimes, that's enough. Understood.